Hey everyone, so today I thought I'd show you guys my full foundation and contour routine. I did it a little bit in my first video, but I have changed some of my techniques, so I wanted to show you guys how I do it. It's kind of in-depth because I think I have a lot of things to cover, but it's also more glam. It's not like an everyday look. I don't do this on a daily basis, but just when I want to look more put together. So the first thing that I do is I already primed my face, by the way, with the Benefit POREfessional, and I also used this little tiny moisturizer. It's by Image Skincare. It's called ILUMA, and it's an intense brightening cream. This is kind of like a little bit of sample that I found, and I like it because it hydrates my face, especially in this dry weather. Continue. I use my NARS Radiant... I use my NARS Radiant Creamy Concealer in the shade Vanilla. As I did in my first video, I kind of used this to cover up my dark circles before I put on my foundation. Actually, let's spray some Smashbox Photo Finish Primer before I do that. Just put that right there. Okay. And a little bit around the nose. To cover up some of the red spots. Even though this is a pink tone concealer, it's still very full coverage, so I just put it around those areas. This is a Bella Pro brush. I got this for Christmas, and it is for buffing out concealer. I don't do this for my highlighting concealer, but I like to do it for this, because when I try to use like my Real Technique sponge, it doesn't come out as well. It comes out very patchy, but when I buff it out with this brush, it seems to look a lot better. So just get into that little corner where the blue stands out. And because this is a pink tone concealer, like I said earlier, this is going to really cover up dark circles because it cancels out the blue and the purple. And this makes such a big difference because I found that when I was just using my Maybelline Age Rewind, which we will see later, I would still have the darkness peeking through, but this really helps to make it less pronounced after I put on my foundation and concealer, and all my powders as well. So now for my foundation, I'm going to take this Bella Pro brush. It's kind of stiffer, more flat and angled. This is a blend and buff brush, and I like to now put my foundation on this as like an initial swipe, and then I will go in with my Real Technique sponge and buff it all out. So I'm taking this new oil that I have. This is the Pixi by Petra Skin Treats Rose Oil Blend. It's a nourishing face oil. I'm just putting that in the brush. I had a face oil for a while, and I didn't want to spend like millions of dollars trying to get one from like the Sephora website. So that was a good, more drugstore option. However, it is $25, but look for a sale because there's always a sale on that kind of stuff. For foundation, I'm going to be using the Born This Way foundation by Too Faced in the shade Vanilla, and just 2 pumps on my brush. I'm going to swipe first on this side because that's where I have the most redness that I need to cover, then this side, and then across my forehead, and then down here in a downwards motion. This causes for me the least amount of streaking. I've always found difficulty with foundation brushes, no matter the type, whether it's a flat paintbrush type of brush or one of these bigger ones. It always gives me streaks, but I decided to really like work with it and play with it and give this a try. And by the way, the rose oil blend from Pixi by Petra is good for wrinkles and skin elasticity. And I found that it has really helped not only hydrating my drier skin for this weather, but it also like heals, I guess, in a way, my redness, because I will put it on at night and then I'll put on my moisturizers right after, and then I will wake up in the morning and the redness will be less pronounced. Okay, so I have the initial coverage down, and I take my Real Technique sponge and I'm going to dampen this with my Makeup Fixing Mist by Pixi. And then I'm just going to pounce in the streakier areas of my face, which is around here, around my nose. When I was younger, I got sun poisoning on my nose, so that has always been the most difficult spot for me to cover up. because foundation and concealer just doesn't want to sit on top of it. I'm trying to find a good way to do that. I mean, some people use like eyeshadow primers on top of their nose. Some people use like really heavy duty concealers from like Dermablend to do that. So I'm gonna try to find out what's the best for me. Okay, all good. I'm going to take Maybelline Age Rewind in the shade Light, and I'm going to put it on the high points. So down here. Down the nose, on top of the Cupid's bow, down here. As I usually just do, I take my Real Technique sponge, and then I take the pointed edge, and then I just buff everything out, doing my under eyes last to prevent more creasing. Softly blend down the bridge of the nose, trying not to blend it out so that my nose doesn't look larger. I usually don't contour my nose because, as I said, products don't really sit on top of it. When I blend out concealer, I try to make sure that this edge really blends into my foundation so there's not just a harsh line there. Then it's time to set, and I'm going to be using tried and true RCMA No Color Powder, and then just dipping the top, but on the other side, just to keep everything more sanitary. And then just press that in and all the way out. Okay, and then whatever is left on the sponge, I put in the other places that we placed the concealer. Do I want to set my face? Yes, because I have a new way of setting my face. So I actually take a fan brush. This is very large, and this is also from Bella Pro. This is something I also got in that set. This is way too large and too fluffy for putting on highlighter. So I like to dip this into my No Color powder and just lightly dust this. This makes sure that you're not caking up your face, but just like lightly setting it. Because when I don't set my face, my other powders, such as my contour powder and my bronzer and blush, they don't go on as well. They start to look a little patchy. So I always have to set my face, but I've been trying not to, and it's been okay. Especially for work, I don't have time to be setting my entire face. And then under the neck, because that's the most annoying thing when you're just like outside and you're like this, and then you look on your hand and it's just covered in foundation. It's like the worst. So I try to set this. Okay, so once I have set my foundation, I'm going to be taking my bronzer. And this is a new bronzer I've been using. I got this for Christmas as well. It's the e.l.f. bronzer, and it's this is like a little quad, and it's a little bit of a shimmery bronzer, but because it is the winter, I try to look a little bit more dewy. It's actually the summer where I try to look more matte. So I just swirl this big Real Techniques brush in all 4 colors. I apply it to the tops of my forehead, the top of my forehead. I can't talk today. Being careful to avoid the center because that's where we put down our concealer, and that is the highlight of the face. So this is really going to frame out those edges. And then I go right underneath the bake and gently sweep the bronzer right underneath. First going back and forth, and then with more circular motions, just to make sure that everything is blended, because this is not going to be the final contour. This is just going to warm up the face. Perfectly acceptable to contour with your bronzer. I've done it before, but that just makes me have like a more orangey look to my face, which is fine because I don't really mind that. I feel like all contour powders just look orange on me. Don't mind this, it's very red. I put in a new hoop, and I had a little bit of a struggle moment, so it's a little bit red, but it's fine. I just don't want to put too much makeup near it so it doesn't get infected. And now I'm going to take this e.l.f. It's like the last video, it's called a blush brush, but I use it for contouring because I like how narrow it is. So I use my tried and true Anastasia Beverly Hills Powder Contour Kit, and today I'm going to dip in more of the darker shade here first. Just like that. And to make it more stark, like, I continue to do the back and forth motions, and I don't really do like the buffing motions until I know that it's at the color that I want it to be. And it always helps to do like a kind of fishy face to see where your cheekbone rests and then underneath it, because that's where you want the shadow to be, right underneath the cheekbone. And then just softly on the outer edge of my forehead, just buff that same color in with the bronzer. Kind of similar to what we did on the cheeks. Just push it. And then we're going to go in with blush. Okay, so we're going to use this color from the e.l.f. quad of blushes. I think this is the light quad. There's a dark one and then there's a light one, which I really appreciate. Next, this is a SS013 Angle Blush. This is also a blush brush, but I actually do use this for blush. This is from Crown Cosmetics. Just a little bit of that color. Now by this point, a lot of my bake has already rubbed away, but all I want it to be is concentrated on the lines underneath my eye, because that way the concealer won't fade into those lines throughout the day. As long as that is set, that's all I really care about. I don't really care about the outer edge as much, because we're going to put highlighter there anyway. I usually have my hair up when I do my makeup, but I did my hair today, kind of did curls, so I didn't want to mess it up, so here I am just going like this the whole time. Before I clean up underneath, I want to rub away the bake now. So I'm going to be taking, again, my Anastasia Beverly Hills Powder Contour Kit. Then I'm going to be taking the shade Banana. So I take this e.l.f. small tapered brush, and I dip a little bit into the yellow because as an initial wipe away of the bake, I want to leave that color there, but I don't want to cause like streakiness or a dry patch, because that's what usually happens to me. So I just take a very small amount and then just wipe away and then press. Push it into the nose a little bit and then extend all the way out. And this is when I take more product onto the brush, a lot more, and then I press it in again. And softly bring it down into the blush, just so that it's not like all the way up to my eyes. Make sure that all the powders are laying on top of each other properly. So again, on the other side, not just baking with the RCMA powder, I'm pushing it into my skin as well. So I want to make sure that it blends well with the yellow pressed powder, and also it lays on top of my concealer because it is still underneath, and that can easily be taken off by harsh brush strokes because it is more creamy than foundation, but also foundation is under there too. So you have to consider the way that you handle your brushes. You need to be very lightweight with it. And I am a victim of being, either too light or too harsh. When I was drawing in high school, I would always have a light hand, and I kind of had somebody kind of snap me out of it and tell me, you know, you need to be more defined with your art. So I started doing it more harshly, and then I would hurt my hands doing it. So it's either or for me. I was never really good at art, but I'm good at makeup, so that's probably why. Okay, so now to clean up underneath, I'm going to take this e.l.f. contour brush, but I used it for contour and it was just too heavy for me, so I used this to clean up the bake underneath, the powder underneath, and then create a bake. So I just go from the outer edge, kind of like the middle of my ear, and just drag it into the corner of my mouth. Then push in the powder. Same powder, RCMA. Kind of more like a curve in my face as opposed to just straight down. And there you go. Okay, now that that's done, I'm going to quickly do my eyebrows. Okay, so I did my eyebrows and I put on a white eyeliner in my waterline. And I put on mascara, and now it's time to dust away the bake because it's been about, I want to say 5 minutes. And that's usually how long I like to have my bake on. You don't want it on for too long. You don't want to dry out your skin. So I'm going to take this, I think it's a blush brush. This is like a Target brand blush brush. And I'm just going to, there's nothing on it. And I'm just going to wipe it all away. Okay, now that that's over with, now we get to my favorite part, which is highlighting. I always knocked people for being so into highlighting, but I kind of just fell in love with it, especially since I want to look more glowy this time of year. So I really have enjoyed it, and this is a trick that I like to do to make it even more glowy and dewy, and this is again on like a more glamorous day. Everything about this tutorial is I take again my Pixi by Petra makeup fixing mist, and I just spray my face, and then I take my Anastasia Beverly Hills That Glow Kit, and my favorite shades to use are Sunburst and Bubbly, and I like these two together. And kind of like with my last video, I take my Morphe M510 brush. This is like my new highlighting brush basically. And I take, as this is drying of course, I take Sunburst and Bubbly and mix them together on the brush. And then as it's like almost dry, go to the top of my cheekbone and work it in. Then I quickly move to the other side. I'm not done with it yet, but I want to make sure that I get it when it's not dry completely, and I do the same type of deal on the high points and then slowly dragging it back and forth. And kind of blend it in with my contour and blush as well. Not too much obviously because we want that contrast, but I just want to make sure that it's not just a stripe of stage lights on top of a shadow. And what I've enjoyed doing lately is kind of taking it on top of my arch. It's not really too much of an arch, unfortunately, but I just drag it up, kind of laying it on top of the other bronzer and contour. I'm going to take it on my nose, really pack it on so I look like Rudolph. Christmas is not over yet. I will be doing a lot of Valentine's Day looks too as well. I just want to get like some basic videos out to show people how I do my makeup. And then I'm going to get more extensive into my creative stuff. I'm going to be doing like obviously more natural looks and more appropriate looks for dates and whatnot for Valentine's Day. But I just taking this on my chin and my Cupid's bow. But I want to do more creative like fun looks too. that are kind of artsy and strange because I like that kind of stuff. Okay, and there you go. Like a glazed donut. I'm gonna do my lips and then I'll be right back. Okay guys, so this is the finished look. I also put in like the same highlight colors in my inner corner and on the top of my brow bone. I'm gonna list all the products that I used on like my eyes and stuff and my lips in the description box. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you learned a lot and I hope to see you in the next one. Just let me know what you want to see. I have a couple ideas in mind, probably some looks that are more natural for work. But also more creative looks to come with the Valentine's Day season. And I thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.